It was Sunday, the 25th of August, 1929. Summer heat pressed heavy upon Mexico City, that sprawling capital still recovering from years of revolution and upheaval. In the historic center, along Correo Mayor Street, the household of Rafael de Landa stirred late, as was customary on the Sabbath day. Church bells rang across the district, calling the faithful to morning mass. The scent of coal smoke and fresh tortillas drifted through open windows. Within the parlor of number 119, a young woman of 18 years prepared to confront her husband. Maria Teresa de Landa Rios had awoken to discover her face upon the front page of the morning newspapers. Yet it was not her beauty that warranted such attention this day, but rather an accusation that struck at the very foundation of her marriage. The general, her husband of but 11 months, maintained another household, another wife, 2 daughters, all concealed through careful deception. The morning light illuminated the pistol upon the side table. It was a weapon of war, heavy and deliberate in design. What transpired in those next moments would transform the celebrated Miss Mexico from symbol of national pride into the subject of the most sensational murder trial the Republic had witnessed. The blue silk dressing gown would never clean again. Maria Teresa de Landa Rios was born on the 15th of October, 1910, in Mexico City. She was the daughter of Rafael de Landa, proprietor of a prosperous dairy business, and Deborah Rios, a woman of the domestic sphere. While the family occupied a position of modest comfort within the middle ranks of society, residing in the historic heart of the capital. From an early age, the child possessed an unusual appearance for her station. Her complexion was remarkably pale, her hair black as coal, her eyes large and penetrating. She grew tall and slender. Neighbors remarked upon her beauty, though the girl herself displayed little vanity. She preferred the companionship of books to that of other children. She read voraciously. Philosophy, literature, the great works of European letters. At the State Normal School for Teachers, Maria Teresa discovered her calling. She wished to educate, to shape young minds, to pursue intellectual independence. This ambition placed her in opposition to the traditional expectations placed upon young women of her class. Her parents, devout in their Catholicism, hoped she might take the veil and devote herself to God. She refused. The notion held no appeal whatsoever. She proceeded to the National University, where she studied odontology. It was said she excelled in her examinations. She wished to be financially independent, to rely upon no man for her sustenance. She spoke of woman's suffrage, of the rights that had been won in distant lands, of the changes sweeping through the world. Conservative elements viewed such talk with alarm. A woman's place, they insisted, was in service to husband and household. Despite her modern views, Maria Teresa maintained a curious detachment from matters of the heart. She had never entertained suitors. Romance, she declared, was rather ridiculous. She would focus upon her studies, her future profession, her independence. When on the 8th of March, 1928, her grandmother, Asuncion Tamayo, passed into eternity. The funeral was well attended. Among the mourners stood General Moisés Vidal, a revolutionary of some 34 years. He had fought in the great upheavals that had torn the nation asunder. He wore his uniform with pride. When his eyes fell upon Maria Teresa, barely 17 years of age, his interest was immediate and unmistakable. They exchanged words. They looked at one another with recognition of something unspoken. The girl, who had dismissed romance as foolishness, found herself unexpectedly drawn to this military man. The courtship commenced with surprising swiftness. General Vidal Coro called upon the Landa household with regularity. He stood beneath Maria Teresa's balcony in the traditional manner, speaking with her in the evening hours. He brought gifts. He offered flattery in abundance. The romantic attentions proved overwhelming to a girl who had never before experienced such focus. Her parents expressed grave reservations. The general was 16 years her senior, a considerable disparity. More troubling still was his social position. Though he held military rank, his origins were humble. He lacked the refinement of education, the polish of good society. Rafael de Landa thought him vulgar, unsuitable for his daughter. He feared the man wished merely to exploit the girl's beauty and innocence. Maria Teresa dismissed these concerns entirely. She was, in the manner of youth, convinced of love's supremacy over prudence. During these same weeks, the newspaper Excelsior announced a beauty pageant. The competition would select a representative to travel to the United States of America, to Galveston in the state of Texas, where an international pageant of pulchritude would be held. Friends of Maria Teresa submitted her photograph without permission. She was invited to participate in subsequent rounds. The competition required participants to pose in bathing costumes. This caused considerable scandal among conservative elements. A young woman displaying her form in such manner was deemed shameless, immoral, evidence of dangerous modern influences. The newspaper El Universal described her as a statue-like woman who demonstrated both beauty and audacity upon Madero Avenue, that fashionable thoroughfare in the city's center. Despite the controversy, or perhaps because of it, Maria Teresa was crowned the first Miss Mexico. The announcement appeared in all major newspapers in May of 1928. She was paraded through the streets upon a decorated float. Merchants called her the girlfriend of Madero Avenue, for it was this street that had brought her fame. Her father ceased speaking to her entirely. General Vidal Coro grew increasingly jealous of the attention his betrothed received. Before she departed for Texas, he extracted a promise. She would return to Mexico City and marry him. She agreed. The international competition did not result in victory. Nevertheless, she received numerous offers of employment, opportunities to work as an actress in the motion picture studios of California. She declined them all. She had given her word to the general. On the 29th of May, 1928, she departed. On the 22nd of September, she returned to become his wife. The marriage was conducted in secret. False documents were presented, as Maria Teresa remained a minor in the eyes of the law. Witnesses were paid to provide testimony. When her parents discovered the union, their fury was considerable, yet eventually they relented. They insisted the couple marry properly through the church. On the 1st of October, 1928, the sacrament was administered. Rafael de Landa remarked to a friend that Venus and Mars were being wed, invoking the Roman deities of love and war. The newlyweds did not establish an independent household. Instead, General Vidal Coro moved into the Landa family residence on Correo Mayor Street. He claimed the location was convenient to his duties. The true reason, however, was control. With her parents present, Maria Teresa would be supervised during his absences. She would not venture out unaccompanied, where men might approach her. The general's jealousy intensified. He forbade her from reading certain newspapers, claiming a respectable lady had no business concerning herself with crimes and indecencies. He controlled her movements, her activities, her very thoughts. The romantic courtship had transformed into something altogether different. In the state of Veracruz, far from the capital, General Vidal Corro maintained another residence. There lived Maria Teresa Herrejon López de Vidal Corro, his first wife. She also bore the given name Maria Teresa. They had wed in 1923. 2 daughters had been born of this union. For nearly a year, the general had successfully concealed this arrangement. Yet the deception could not endure indefinitely. The first wife learned of her husband's bigamy. She learned of the young beauty queen who now bore the same surname. Her response was decisive. She went to the newspapers. On that Sunday morning in August, Maria Teresa de Landa awoke late. She wrapped herself in her blue silk dressing gown and proceeded to the dining room. The morning papers lay upon the table. She glanced at the front page. Her own face stared back. The headline proclaimed her an adulteress. It stated that Señora Maria Teresa Herrejon López had accused General Moisés Vidal Corro of bigamy and demanded immediate arrests. The revelation shattered everything. Her marriage was illegitimate. Her husband was a deceiver. She had been made a fool before all of Mexico. The emotion that rose within her was not merely sorrow, but rage. So she seized the general's pistol from the side table. She confronted him in the parlor where he sat reading, his cigarettes and book beside him. Accounts differ regarding the precise sequence of events. Maria Teresa later testified that she had intended to take her own life. She threatened suicide, crying out that she could no longer endure the shame. The general attempted to calm her, to take the weapon from her grasp. In her fury, she turned the Smith & Wesson caliber .44 pistol upon him instead. 6 shots were fired in rapid succession. 2 bullets struck the general's face. 4 entered his torso. The report of the weapon echoed through the household. General Moisés Vidal Corro died instantly. When Maria Teresa comprehended what she had done, she attempted once more to shoot herself. The chamber was empty. Just no ammunition remained. She fell upon her husband's body. She held him in her arms. She kissed his bloodied face. She repeated again and again the words, "Forgive me, forgive me, forgive me." Her mother, Deborah Rios, alarmed by the gunfire, rushed into the parlor. She found her daughter covered in blood, weeping over the general's corpse. She removed the pistol from Maria Teresa's hand. She summoned assistance. The constabulary arrived within the hour. Maria Teresa, still wearing her blood-stained dressing gown, refused to provide any statement. She declared she would speak only before a judge and in the presence of her attorney, Licenciado José María Lozano. The family and the accused were conveyed to the offices of the Second Commissariat. Before Comisario Quintana, Maria Teresa made her confession. She stated, "I killed him, but despite the fact that I adored him. From this moment, the only thing I desire is to kill myself, and I shall accomplish it yet." The examining physician determined that the general had sustained 10 wounds in total, as some bullets had passed entirely through his body. The cause of death was recorded as multiple gunshot injuries resulting in immediate mortality. Evidence was collected from the scene. The weapon was secured. The bloodied garments were catalogued. Formal charges of homicide were laid. Maria Teresa de Landa was remanded to the custody of Belén prison to await trial. If you are finding this case as compelling as we are, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. It truly helps us continue researching and sharing these forgotten stories from history. We also read every comment, so let us know your thoughts on this case below. Now, let us continue. The date for trial was set for December of that same year. José María Lozano, known throughout the legal profession as the Prince of Speech, agreed to serve as counsel for the defense. He was a man of considerable reputation, former Minister of Public Instruction, renowned for his eloquence in the courtroom. He visited Maria Teresa in prison, conducting interviews through the bars of her cell. The newspapers published photographs of these consultations. The case had captured the imagination of the entire capital. Everyone wished to know the fate of Miss Mexico, the beauty queen turned confessed murderess. The proceedings commenced on the 15th of December, 1929, at Belén prison. This would prove to be the final criminal trial conducted with a popular jury in Mexico City, as legal reforms had abolished the institution. The jury consisted of 9 citizens without formal legal training. They would determine guilt or innocence based upon the evidence presented. Thousands attended or followed the trial through newspaper reports and radio broadcasts. The courtroom overflowed with spectators. The atmosphere was tense with anticipation. The day was unusually warm, the air close and stifling. Maria Teresa appeared dressed entirely in black, her countenance pale and sorrowful. Her beauty, it was widely reported, seemed to entrance all who observed her. The prosecutor, Ignacio Bustos, presented the case for the state. He characterized the accused as immoral and shameless. When he displayed photographs of Maria Teresa in minimal clothing, including images from the beauty competition. He declared that she was a killer who had brought disgrace upon traditional Mexican womanhood. He suggested her conviction would serve as warning to other women who might stray from proper conduct. José María Lozano rose to present the defense. For 5 hours he held the court in thrall with his oratory. He invoked famous crimes of passion from history. He portrayed Maria Teresa as a victim of society's abuse, a woman betrayed by a man who had sworn sacred vows. He argued she had acted in defense of her honor, that she had been driven to violence by unbearable emotional distress, that the revelation of her husband's bigamy had produced a temporary loss of reason. He stated, "The Señora de Landa de Vidal, upon committing the act of which she stands accused, acted under violent compulsion of moral force that produced well-founded fear of imminent and serious harm to her person. It was not murder," he insisted, but self-defense against dishonor. Maria Teresa herself addressed the court. She said, "The jury will understand how the imperatives of my destiny led me to the fit of madness in which I destroyed the man whom I loved to distraction, along with my own happiness." The courtroom erupted in weeping and applause. The jury withdrew to deliberate. Their verdict was unanimous. Not guilty. Maria Teresa de Landa was acquitted on all charges. She was declared free to leave. The crowd outside the prison cheered when the announcement was made. The acquittal sparked considerable debate throughout the Republic. Many believed justice had been served, that General Vidal Coro had received his due punishment for his deception and bigamy. Others argued that Maria Teresa had been exonerated solely because of her beauty, that the jury had been bewitched by her appearance rather than swayed by legal reasoning. Some questioned whether she had indeed pulled the trigger, or whether her brothers had committed the act. These suspicions were never formally investigated. The case became emblematic of the tensions between tradition and modernity in post-revolutionary Mexico. Here was a woman who had competed in a beauty pageant, who had posed in bathing costume before the public, who had embraced education and independence. Yet when betrayed by her husband, she had responded with violence in defense of honor, invoking the most traditional justifications. The newspapers debated endlessly the contradictions inherent in her story. Criminologist Antonio Baquejano expressed doubt that Maria Teresa could have fired the weapon with such accuracy, given its weight and caliber. He suggested that at least one of her brothers must have been present during the shooting. However, without formal investigation, these remained merely theories. Following her release from custody, Maria Teresa withdrew entirely from public attention. She returned to her studies with renewed determination. She completed her degree at the National University. She pursued advanced education, earning both a master's degree and, in 1947, a doctorate in letters with highest honors. She joined the faculty of the National Autonomous University of Mexico, teaching history, ethics, and philosophy at various preparatory schools. Her students included notable figures such as the journalist Jacobo Zabludovsky, the poet Octavio Paz, and the historian Luis de la Barreda. The latter wrote of her as a magnificent narrator who transported her pupils to distant epochs through passionate recounting of historical events. For more than 4 decades, she taught, never speaking publicly of the events of 1929. When a student once asked how she possessed such knowledge of difficult lives, she replied cryptically that there were things about her they could never imagine. She never married again. She bore no children. Maria Teresa de Landa retired from teaching in 1986. She died on the 4th of March, 1992, at the age of 81 years. She was interred at Panteón Jardín de México in the San Angel district. No public memorial marks the grave. The records of her trial remain sealed in the archives. The case continues to fascinate historians and legal scholars. She remains known not as the pioneering educator she became, but as the beauty queen who killed her husband. Whether she truly fired those 6 shots, or whether family members acted to defend her honor, may never be conclusively determined. The truth departed with her, carried silently to the grave across all those long years of dignified academic service, her past buried beneath decades of scholarship and the measured cadences of the lecture hall.